Hello, and welcome to today's special informative talk on candidosis. I'm your host, Nadia Machaira. I'm an emotion energy healer, creator of the Break Free Now method, and founder of the Facebook group Emotion Healing Mastermind Forum. Well, I'm very, very happy and proud to present you my guest, Cécile Ellert. Cécile is an authority in holistic aromatherapy, one of the most important experts in the French-speaking blogosphere. She's French, but lives in the US, in New Hampshire. Cécile holds a master's degree in psychology, and she has graduated from Asia Pacific Aromatherapy School of Hong Kong, where she lived for 10 years, and benefited from the teachings of aromatherapy authorities such as Christine Saunders, Gabrielle Mogei, or Ron Guba. She also studied quantum physics applied to anatomy with Dr. Cam Yuen's Yuen method and the Jessica Taylor's Millennium method. Cécile regularly holds online conferences and created her own online holistic aromatherapy school called the Aroma Pro, endorsed by the Ascetis Natural Therapies Insurance. She's the author of 6 acclaimed books, part of a full collection created by the Amiris Editions. Cécile Ellert's passion is educating the public and empowering us to regain control of our own health. She exposes what the big pharma companies and conventional medicine hide from us. She teaches us how to avoid drugs and replace them with a holistic combination of essential oils and nutritional rules. Her specialties lie on understanding and addressing any energetic imbalance that fuel chronicity, gut issues, and emotional suffering. Following the success of one of her books in French, its English version, called Anti-candida Balance, is being released now in September and available on Amazon. And you'll all be able to rediscover how to efficiently manage candidosis and heal from this nasty disorder. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Cécile Ellert.
Thank you, Nadia. Thanks a lot. And I'm very pleased to be there today, to be with you. And I'm very happy to be able to talk to your audience, which I don't very much know because most of my stuff, my work is in French. So thanks a lot for the presentation.
Well, my first question would be, first I would like to start with a simple definition of our aromatherapy versus holistic aromatherapy. I would like to know the difference. And then you tell us something about the importance of treating candidosis.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I know that most of the time people have no idea when I tell them that I'm a holistic aromatherapist, because it's not part of people's education to think necessarily of anything holistic. When someone hears about holistic, they all automatically think not necessarily very viable or scientific. But the thing is, aromatherapy is usually well known as a clinical aromatherapy, which is an answer to symptoms. It's more touching the core of the problem compared to any drug approach. But still, it's a very symptomatic way of answering problems. It's very physical. Holistically, in holistic aromatherapy, what we do is, of course, we take into consideration the emotions. And usually we like to blend what we do with different type of approach that are actually working together. I was lucky enough in Hong Kong to learn Chinese medicine and shiatsu, and of course a lot of energetic ways of dealing with the origin of physical imbalances, which lie usually into the emotional and realm and psychological and everything. So today, when you listen to any type of conferences all over the world, when someone is trying to really answer to physical problem, it usually always tend to move towards what is the origin. And yes, of course, there is an emotional origin. So this is what we do in holistic aromatherapy, and this is why what is so interesting is to identify the essential oils that will both work in the same time on the emotional and on the physical. And you asked about the importance of treating candidosis. Yeah, of course. To me, this is huge because all my work is about teaching people not to use drugs. And if you ever wondered, today we have tons of means, we have tons of research, we have tons of money to do this research, and more drugs appear on the market everywhere, and still we are more and more sick, and we are more and more using drugs. And the worst is when you think of, the kids today, our generation will be sicker than my grandparents, your grandparents, my parents, your parents, us, generally speaking, simply because of the same old problem. There is a big generalization, a spread of toxicity. And this toxicity is really at the root of most of what we get today. There is this toxicity that is linked to, of course, a poor nutritional value in everything we eat. So we give less and less and less means to our body to get better. And the toxicity has this impact on our emotional level, which will have an impact on our physical well-being and immunity. It's a huge domino game in here. And the thing is, by taking more and more drugs, we have not even more answers. The only answer we have is we'll just take them all our lives for no definitive results. And what I found out since I've been treating people for their candidosis is just that, just by working on this overpopulation of candida in their gut and taming it and controlling it, we had all the other things disappear. When people come to see you because they have insomnia and depression and PMS and constipation or different things like that, they believe they have tons of things and they are very sick, when actually at the beginning they just have an overgrowth of candida in their gut, and that's it. And so by treating that,
what is candida?
Candida albicans is just a yeast. It's a yeast that we all have in our gut. It's part of our population of bacteria. It's a bacteria. It could be considered a bacteria. We have tons of good and bad bacteria in our gut. And what is important is to keep the balance. This is what we call the balance of the flora, the gut flora. And when this, it's very easy actually to create a difference, to jeopardize this balance simply with stress, with drugs, with bad food, too much sugar, exhaustion. So it's very easy to make a difference and to lower our immunity and let the bad bacteria take the advantage on the good ones. And this is when dysbiosis starts, and this is when candidosis starts too. Of course, dysbiosis is the imbalance between the good and the bad. And today, simply by having too much of this, this overgrowth, as soon as you get the proper conditions to stimulate this dysbiosis, you stimulate at the same time the overgrowth of the candida. And this yeast is going to climb everywhere in your body, and most of the time even up to your brain. And the more you are toxic, especially with heavy metal like mercury or aluminium, the more, the mercury is going to keep this candida where, in all the tissues. Both are holding their hands, and it's very difficult. It's not actually possible to reduce the level of candida in your body when you have a high level of metal toxicity, which is more and more and more the case, because actually drugs contain these metals. But this is another story. But what happens is, the more you have candida in your body, the more you discover what more toxicity is, because this yeast actually release a lot of mycotoxins. They are dejections. They poop in your body. They pee and poop in your body, and this is very irritating, and it creates more inflammation in your body. It actually holds the inflammation in your body. So when you have, any type of aches, most of the time it's when you have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Irritable bowel syndrome is all based on how inflamed your gut lining is. You cannot get rid of that if you don't control your candidosis. It's not possible. If you have arthritis, you have inflammation in your joints, you cannot get rid of it until you don't get rid of, your candidosis. Oh. So it's up to depression. You cannot get rid of depression until you get rid of your candidosis. You cannot lose weight until you work on your inflammation everywhere, which is directly linked to your candidosis. So taking drugs forever to take care of your joint problem, or to take care of your IBS, or to take care of your depression is no use. It's just feeding the toxicity that's going to hold your candidosis in your tissue, and actually how do you call that in English? Now, make sure that it's going to stay like that for the rest of your life. If you want to finally make a difference, stop your symptoms, stop your this, when people who, it's a generalized way of feeling bad. When you have candidosis, usually you are tired, you always catch any type of virus that goes around, all the epidemics are for you. You have a bad immunity, you have a bad way of, seeing things, you are always moody. Yeah. It can manifest on many, many different ways. But most of the time you feel like, oh my God, you feel like everything goes wrong to you. And when you go see a doctor, they're going to run tests on you and nothing will come out. Nothing is wrong.
That's what, from what you say now, I was wondering, why has the medical profession denied the importance of treating candidosis to relieve chronic diseases? And and we all know that science has proven it more than 20 years ago. So why don't we...
Nadia, for that there are many explanations. First, when there is a concept coming out like that, it takes ages to end up in medical books, first. And second, medical books are written most of the time by drug industry, and drug industry has absolutely no interest in anyone treating that, because you cannot just treat candidosis with drugs. It's not possible, because drugs are part of the root cause of why it's there.
It's part of the problem. Yeah.
Drugs are part of the feeding process of candidosis. So, and until you stop taking drugs, you're going to have candidosis. So of course, drug industry has absolutely no interest in you being aware that eventually you have a very powerful way of teaching your body how to deal with that and to control that and not to suffer from that. And most of the time, food is linked to it, nutrition is linked to it, and everyone knows that these poor doctors have only 2 weeks of nutrition in their 9 years of studies. And most of the time, they don't know anything from that besides I don't know, calorie intake or something like that, which everyone knows is completely bullshit. So you don't, there is no way. Alors, of course, doctors know about some candidosis manifestation, the external ones that are, the most visible, like athlete foot, for instance, or thrush for women. So they will give you ovules for women, or, cream on feet, but it won't do anything on the long run. You stop your cream, it comes back, of course. I'm sure that among your readers, so many women already had vaginal infections and even, bladder infection and stuff like that. And they know that as soon as they will stop, even before they stop their antibiotics, they will see it come back, or it won't last, just because they don't treat the inside. It has to come from the inside. And so, of course, the doctors are kind of stuck because they don't have the tools, and the tools are among what is natural, because what they don't know, or maybe what are not said, is that this type of yeast mutates very easily, and they are like all these, resistant bacteria that, know how to behave in front of an antibiotic. And the thing is, antibiotics are what feed the more, are the big feeders of the candidosis, and this is what they use to fight it. So it's no use. But of course, using natural stuff wouldn't be as fructiful. So it is not what is taught to them. Yeah. So they don't know about it.
But we have to learn how to live differently, or how to face our body differently, how to eat differently.
Completely.
Well, I would like to come back to candidosis again. I understand you have experienced it yourself. How did you discover it, and why did you feel you had to write this book?
Wow, I was lucky enough. I had different teachers when I was in aromatherapy school in Hong Kong. And one of them was candidosis guru, and I didn't know about that. And she was my kinesiology teacher. And in kinesiology, of course, you identify a lot of emotional links to what happens physically. And in Hong Kong, this type of problem was huge, because all the conditions are there. It's very humid, it's very hot, so everything and everyone is very stressed, and a lot of energetic predisposition. I'm not going to enter in there, but for those who know a little bit of Chinese medicine, when you have a spleen deficiency, you're doomed to have candidosis, and spleen deficiency was really the beast in Hong Kong. And so it was all about treating spleen deficiency, and everyone, I've seen a lot of candidosis manifestation on people over there. Anyway, and so we were taking roles in school to be the guinea pig in many situations to explain certain concepts. And when it came to talking about candida, the teacher took me in front of the others and started testing me. And she said, "Wow, you're covered with that from head to toe." And she said, "Do you have this and that? Are you bloated? Do you have stomach ache?" And of course, I had all of that. We had a very difficult anatomy exam coming up, and I was into my anatomy, and it was hyper stressful, and it was a nightmare. And she said, okay, so it's not a big deal. You just have to follow this diet. You just have to stop eating all this food. And she tested me, and she said, "Yeah, you are allowed half a strawberry per day." And she gave me this full, mini book like that of all the forbidden ingredients. And I thought, okay, what am I going to eat like that? So, of course, at the moment, I had too many things to do. I had my exams and everything, so I completely forgot about it. And it caught me back, because since I knew about it, when I started to have to do my case studies for my exam, I would find all the everything about candidosis in each and one of my patients, all of them. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to find a way, because no one will ever follow these, restrictions like that. You don't know what to eat once you know what you cannot eat anymore. And it was until a friend of mine, she was married to an Italian guy, eating, of course, pasta every day and cheese. And she was very hooked on little cakes and everything. And she said, the doctor told me I had this high level of candidosis, very dangerous if I wanted to have a kid. I cannot have a kid now because of that. Help me. I don't know what to eat. But so many recipes, I'm sure you can put something together. So this is how it started. I had to put recipes together for my friend. And little by little, it became a book. It just started like that.
Right.
And it worked so well on her that finally I decided to add something to explain what it was about, and to give, of course, to address emotional link to why you get candidosis, because of course there is a huge emotional origin to all of that.
Oh yes, that's for sure. Well, now with everything you said, that I'm sure that everybody thinks that they have candidosis. So can you tell us how we can identify it?
There is a very easy, you have to know that it is not easy to identify through regular blood tests and stuff like that. It's not because you have candidosis that is going to show in a blood test.
Oh, really?
The easiest way is still to know, to do a checklist with all the symptoms. If you, as I said, if you catch always the same thing, if you cannot get rid of certain type of pain, if you have chronic, anything chronic, you're sure you have it. But what I give to my clients during their diet, and sometimes they have months of diet, because when you are, for instance, a diabetic too, you need a good year of treatment to get rid of that through the Candida diet, my approach. And what I give them to encourage them is to compare, to see how their saliva behave in a glass of water. It sounds very simple and childish, but actually it's pretty accurate. It shows how, because Candida comes back in your mouth. And the thing is to have a glass of water ready next to you, next to your bed. And the first thing in the morning when you wake up, without kissing anyone or rinsing your mouth, is to spit into that glass of water and to see how it behaves. And usually what happens is, when you are nice and covered with Candida, is you'll see your saliva will maybe first make a cushion on top of the water and start getting down, and you'll see some legs of white saliva coming and then creating another cushion on the bottom. Or the worst is a siphon. I have a nice picture on my website showing it was one of my clients. Wow, she had the most beautiful specimen. And if you have a completely free if you don't have any overgrowth of Candida, your saliva will just simply disappear on top of the water, and you will see no white anything in it.
And so it won't
no
go
white
down
whatsoever.
Yes. And it will not go down.
You won't see anything going down. The saliva will simply dissolve on top of the water.
Okay. Well, from what you said, is it something that concerns all of us, or almost all of us?
But completely, because this is why I fight so much to educate women about that, because women are predisposed to develop that simply because they have hormone variation, and then automatically, they have immunity variations all the time. And the worst is when you are pregnant. When you are pregnant, you don't want to use any drugs, but the problem is all the hormonal variations in your pregnancy are, what will create, stimulate any overgrowth of candidosis. And especially the stress now of being pregnant, it's so over medicalized that, they always push you into the fear of doing something wrong. They make it a big deal. It's not a big deal to be pregnant. It shouldn't be a big deal. But anyway, all the stress going around makes it even better to develop a lot of candidosis and to have this and that, and you shouldn't because you cannot have antibiotics and everything. But the problem is this is something that you give to your baby.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah.
Voila. And babies, with especially if you had a C-section, for instance, because during the birth, only during vaginal birth, at that point when the baby goes through the birth canal, only at that moment the baby will gulp some very important flora from your vagina when it goes out. But when you have a C-section, the baby won't get the advantage of this very important flora that is huge for immunity. And there are more and more and more C-sections for convenience. And so now, with all the C-section and all the occurrence of unuseful antibiotic courses during pregnancy, you have more candidosis. You don't give the proper flora to your baby, but you give the candidosis, and you have more and more babies with so much pain at birth. I remember that when I had my son even 20 years ago. This poor girl, she had this hyper long, labor, and I could hear her baby crying and crying for days after. And this is how these poor kids have so much pain in their belly. They twist all day and they catch their first otitis very early, their first sore throat, they cough, they have all these upper respiratory system infections so early. They get very early all these antibiotics that will just make it even worse. They will. There is this. I explain in my book the vicious cycle of having a baby candida with all the manifestations that go with it and all the treatment that go with it, and these poor kids. Yeah, of course. It's very important to, as a woman, treat it long in advance to make sure you don't give it to your baby.
Okay. Well, and I wanted also to ask you regarding your book, this Anti-candida balance. Can you tell us why it's different from any other book on the subject?
But it's the only one that includes aromatherapy in it. And most of the books will either talk about diet only or diet and drug antifungals. But no one will take into consideration the emotional side of it, the energetic side of it. And what I give in my book is I put together a formula, an aromatic formula that works on your energetic level, on the energetic origin of what usually becomes a candidosis, and it works on your on your emotional first, but also on your nervous system, because when you go through that type of diet, of course, it's not easy to go through. It's very, very challenging. And so I don't want you to take any drugs. So I give you aromatic remedies for what's going to be normal to expect from that type of detox. When you detox, you always have, usually headaches, or you become cranky, or, but on top of it, all the symptoms that you are trying to fight might reoccur, and even worse during the detox. So, of course, I address all of that with only supplements and aromatic remedies.
That's great. Well, I must admit now that I was one of your patients, and that you did wonders with me and my family. So, Cécile, I really want to thank you very, very much. It was very enlightening, and I hope that we'll have another talk about aromatherapy and another topic.
Sure. Time. Yeah, there is so many topics.
Exactly. Well, thank you very, very, very much, Cécile.
Thank you, Nadia. Anytime. Bye-bye. I'm always there.